Hey guys, welcome to the first episode of my new monthly music show. I say monthly assuming the fact that people watch this one and that they like them enough that I can continue doing more, but we will see how it goes. Now obviously this channel is entirely focused on kind of films and TV, but I listen to a lot of music as well, and because I'm someone who doesn't like to feel like things are going to waste, if I'm listening to stuff, I want to talk about that as well. Hopefully I can share some stuff with you guys that you guys may not be familiar with, or that you guys are familiar with and just want to hear me talk about. I am nowhere near as good at talking about music as I am film and TV, but I want to get just as good. And the best way I see myself doing that is talking about it regularly, and I think doing a kind of episode every month where I kind of round up what I'm listening to and kind of semi-review it, but kind of just share my kind of loose thoughts on it. I think that's kind of the way to go. And because I kind of stalled with music, I guess during university, I didn't really listen to a whole lot of new stuff, and now since I've finished, I've kind of just been blasting through a massive amount of music because there's so much out there, there's so much to catch up on. I try to almost listen to a new album every day unless I get caught up on something that's really good, and then I just spam it for like a week straight and ignore everything else. But I think this show will kind of put the pressure on me to keep listening to new stuff, keep finding new stuff, and keep sharing it with you guys. As with film and TV as well, there is no taste that restricts what I enjoy and what I don't enjoy, what I listen to and what I don't listen to. As long as it is good, I will enjoy it to some degree. It does not matter what genre it is, as long as the kind of the artistic value is there, or there's something to be kind of gripped by, I'm all on board with it. Obviously, we've just hit March, but I'm looking at stuff from February and January. I do just want to kind of focus on if I continue doing this month per month, but there's already been 2 months of the year that I've listened to a lot of great stuff that I want to talk about. This doesn't really have any kind of structure to it. I'm just going to talk about the albums in the order that I kind of want to. There's no like best to worst or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about them as I kind of think about them. Starting off, I want to talk about a local band from my hometown of Perth in Western Australia called Breed. They released their first album, How the Equine Died, and I've been listening to it pretty much daily since it came out almost a month ago. It's a metal album, or kind of, I'm not too good with genres, but we're going to go the bass genre being kind of metal. It's kind of similar to Tool. There's elements of kind of System of a Down in there. I really enjoy kind of how diverse this kind of album feels, almost song to song. There's so much great kind of great music on this thing. Now, the work here from everyone on the album is fantastic. It is a 7-track album running at nearly 50 minutes long, because one of the tracks at least goes for 13 minutes, so you kind of get an idea that there's some stuff that's short and then some stuff that's really long. But I really just enjoyed how much of kind of a wild ride this album is. There's actual songs on it that like I belt out in the car while I'm driving. Like, I just really enjoy the lyrics here as well as their delivery. Also just some of the kind of it just has some moments on it that I really adore. Here, check out some of it.
And I'll learn how to live a life so strong rather let go. For I believe I'm the answer, but I'm good, so my own. In moderation, monikers, camera, song. It's all the same, but you know you won.
That album is on Spotify. I listen to all of my music through Spotify, although you can probably find a lot of this stuff up on YouTube if that's kind of the way that you discover new music. These chairs creak so much. They always, just the worst. Next up, I want to talk about the kind of first artist I had transitioned to listening to this year, because I missed his stuff when I was talking about my best albums of 2017. He did have an album last year that I didn't get to until pretty much the first week of this year. I'm talking about Open Mike Eagle. I went through and listened to all of his stuff. Really enjoyed all of it, mainly his latest album. That album is called Brick Body Kids Still Daydream. Something about it, like, this is a really kind of soothing rap album, but with some really fantastic lyrics on it. It kind of took me a while to get into it. I do actually listen to a lot of my music for the first time when I'm at the gym, because I'm there for about an hour. It's a good time to just listen to a new album at the time without having the experience of it broken up. I did struggle to get into it at first, but once it kind of clicked, it honestly is just, it sounds like it's just complete bliss. This dude honestly has an amazing flow. Like, it's really exciting to listen to, because I always feel like there's a really unpredictable element to where anything's going to go on a track for the first time when you listen to it. Tracks particularly like Brick Body Complex and 95 Radios really stand out on this one. I also enjoyed, he did a collaboration album with Paul White, who I believe is a producer. That album is called Hella Personal Film Festival. It's a bit more uneven, but certain tracks like Check to Check and particularly Leave People Alone, which is one of those ones that I just smash. I don't often like loop tracks, but I literally like was listening to it multiple times in a row, right in kind of when it was peaking for me, because I really, really enjoyed it. His other album, Dark Comedy, has moments. I'm not as strong on it as Brick Body Complex, and Brick Body Kid Still Daydream. I would say that that's probably the album to start with, and then you can kind of decide if you want to move into the other stuff, but that's kind of the most solid of his stuff. Next up is one of the main kind of popular bands that I kind of charged through this month that I'd never really explored properly. Arctic Monkeys is that band, the first one that I went through kind of in January. Wow. Now, obviously, I'm pretty familiar with a lot of their stuff because it had a lot of radio play, particularly back when the first album came out in 2006. That was all the rage. I remember that was like, I don't know if anyone had like primary school discos. I don't know what they call them in America. What's that, junior school or elementary, or I don't know what they call it. Australia just has primary school and high school, and you kind of just, there's no third school that America has. That's so weird. Anyway, in primary school when that first came out, I was 10 at the time, and it was all the rage. Everyone was all about the Arctic Monkeys. And so I heard a lot of their stuff, absolutely loved it, but never actually went through their albums properly. And I just don't know what else to say other than wow. So much fun. Like, honestly, that is some of the most fun music, with some of the most kind of just the catchiest, not just the lyrics, but like everything about the kind of the rhythm, the vibe that they give off. Honestly, the band has some of the best like percussion work I've heard in kind of indie alt rock band. Like it's just so much fun. That's the main thing I keep coming back to with each of their albums. Probably my favorite of the 5 is Favorite Worst Nightmare by like a smidge over AM. I think my favorite thing about the band is that like their music always feels appropriate for any given situation. Like whether, you know, like I'm driving, I'm at the gym, I was at a party, I was just working at home. It's just got a fantastic energy to it that is just really, really exciting. Really love all of their albums. I suggest, like I will with kind of most albums, obviously I didn't with Open Mike Eagle just before, but I always move through things start to finish, so first album to latest album. It was a really great progression. With Humbug and Suck It and See, I didn't really focus on them too much, so I need to go back into them again. But I spent like 2 days on each of them, and I was like, yeah. And then I got to the latest album, and I was like, oh, damn. Obviously, all the rage in the last couple of weeks has been Kendrick Lamar's Black Panther album, which obviously as a Kendrick fan I was going to be right into, considering it also features like some guests that I really, really love, obviously including James Blake, Anderson .Paak, Vince Staples, there was Schoolboy Q on there. Like just all the tracks are a lot of fun, and they work. I don't think, like, some people like expecting there to be like another advancement in Kendrick's style, but that's not why he was brought on. Like, he'll do that in his next album, I think, because he's kind of all the rage right now with his current, that damn style that he's got going on. It's kind of what you feel through the album, and it's good. It's good. I'm not going to say it's great. It's just a really good album that has some really, really awesome kind of moments in it. I think it's at its best when it's just letting Kendrick do his thing. But other tracks on it, such as Bloody Waters and, there's a couple of other ones in there. Paramedic, I really dig. Of course, Ops is fantastic, and All the Stars, just with that fantastic kind of feature. It's SZA, isn't it? You pronounce it as SZA as opposed to SCA. That stuff always confuses me. Anyway, the Black Panther album is just a really, really good time. There's 4 other albums which I want to touch on quickly. The first one is Party by Aldous Harding. I had the pleasure of seeing her live at a festival I was at in the last couple of weeks. A bizarre set. She's weird. But her kind of indie, mellow, acoustic sound with these fantastic vocals. Like, I really, really love her vocal style. Highlight track off that album to check out would definitely be Horizon. Actually made for a really magical kind of live performance as well. I really enjoyed that. It kind of just actually missed out on my honorable mentions on my top 10 albums of 2017 list. It was the last album I listened to before doing that list. So I just wanted to mention that one quickly. I also hit up Django's Marble Skies. I'd missed their last album, but when their like kind of self-titled first album came out, that was all the rage. Actually, funnily enough, it's something that my dad got me onto. My dad has great music taste. I really enjoyed Marble Skies. It's not particularly memorable, but it's got a great, again, energy. It's kind of got like a really good pulse to it, probably the best way of saying. I really like their kind of old indie electronic kind of style. It doesn't seem to be advancing too far, but they're kind of experimenting forward enough to make it an interesting progression. Interesting enough that I will go and catch up on the album that I missed. Micro Shift by Hookworms was one that I saw pop up on Metacritic with a kind of high score, and I thought, I know nothing about this, but I'm going to check it out. What I didn't realize is that apparently the album is quite electronic. Apparently the band is known for more kind of alt-rock type stuff previous, so I will go back and check that out to see what the transition was like. Really enjoyed the album. Particular tracks like Opener, I really dug. I don't really know what else to say about that one, how else to really kind of explore it. I just think that it was a good time, and I will probably kind of go back to it and casually listen to it, but it's not something that I'm really going to overly dive into too much, but I did think it was pretty cool. As far as musical low points, didn't really have any in anything that I listened to, because I never turn an album off. Like I will go the whole way through it even if it's terrible, and there was some last year that I did that with. No, but anyway, the kind of lowest point in the last 2 months that I've had was with MGMT's Little Dark Age. By no means a bad album. I just didn't really enjoy it. It was one of those albums that I listened to, and it just, I listened to it while I was at the gym, and it just completely faded. It was just background noise. It didn't really kind of hook me at any point. Or kind of interest me. Some really cool ideas on it. Okay, some really cool, there's some great beats on there, but I don't really know, I wasn't really invested by anything by it, as I was kind of, I used to be really wrapped with their music back when they were at their kind of peak, I guess, but it didn't really do a whole lot for me. And now, we've built to the fun stuff. What I really wanted to talk about in this video was I started Radiohead this month. Now, Jay had been onto Radiohead for a long time. All my other friends had been onto Radiohead. I'd been putting it off for some reason. I feel like there was a lot of other stuff. I was catching up on a lot of kind of hip-hop and rap stuff that I'd missed last year. So I'm moving more into the kind of the rock and metal grounds this year. I laugh because rock kind of evaporates from Radiohead after a while. And I've just got to say, I get instantly why people say that this is one of the best bands ever. Weirdly enough, even on Pablo Honey, which I know people quite often kind of consider the weakest of their albums, or kind of at least the least interesting, I was still like, oh god damn, this is good. I was not prepared for where it was going to go next, of course, because look, first with that album, I just want to say I was really impressed by it, considering most people say they're not impressed by it. Or at least not impressed in context, in hindsight. I still am, like even up to where I'm up to with them, I'm still not completely finished moving through their entire discography, but I still really enjoy that album. It has a great first 4 tracks. I was like, oh man, this is like a really cool way to kind of introduce yourself as a band, because there's a great amount of diversity to it, considering they're still very much a rock band on that album, which was released in 1993. Obviously, Creep is a classic. I had heard that before. Hearing it in the context of the album, I really dug it. So I spent a few days on that before moving on to the Bends, which I enjoyed even more. Again, just a mild evolution of sound. It was still pretty comfortable. Wasn't in for any real shocks with it yet. I think my favorite track on that album is probably Black Star. I really enjoy just the guitar work mainly. Is just really fantastic. I really feel like all 4 members working on those instruments do a really fantastic job, and obviously the percussion really backs it up. I really dig York's vocals as well as Ed O'Brien's kind of, it's weird to say, but Radiohead has probably some of my favorite backing vocals of all time, and that's even just up to the point that I'm up to with them. I really dig that background work with the vocals. It's just always fantastic. Apparently there's not a single song that Ed takes lead on, which I'd be interested to see, because he actually is really fantastic in his own right as a vocalist. Again, even on the Radiohead section, what I really want to talk about is OK Computer, because, okay, man, from the start, I was like, wowee. From Airbag, it just literally like kicked my head in. I was like, oh, this is probably one of the best things I've ever heard. And the album just continues getting exponentially better as it goes on. Favorite track is probably either Karma Police or Climbing Up the Walls. I'm really into music that sounds like Climbing Up the Walls. I really love when a band goes really kind of slow, really grungy, kind of that wailing, distorted vocals. I absolutely love that song, particularly how manic it gets. And I really just love the album's overall kind of outlook on, you know, the state of society as a whole. Weirdly enough, considering the album is from 1997, it still feels super current. Like, it actually feels like, I'm like, wow, this feels more advanced and inventive than most stuff coming out now. And of course, that's not even as inventive as Radiohead gets. Because I knew about the electronic transition. I knew that they went into being very different. And I wish I'd been old enough to kind of understand and appreciate at the time, because I imagine having that transition, being a Radiohead fan and then going to Kid A. I imagine that being super wild, because it was wild enough for me, only having about 5 days apart from listening to OK Computer before moving on to Kid A. But Kid A, holy shit. Very rare that I'd listen to an album like almost instantly and be like, yeah, this is probably top 10 of all time. And I've got to say, like, it is. It so is. I really, really dig bands that are known for guitar-heavy work moving into electronic-based music. I really love kind of metal experimentation with electronic stuff, but Radiohead going from that kind of still electronic vibes on OK Computer, kind of appropriately so. But then what they did with Kid A, like, what? What kind of band does that? Goes, yeah, we got something really good going on, but we're not going to cash in on it. We're literally going to do something completely different next up. From the very start, again, tracks on this album that I'd been familiar with before, everything in its right place. From the get-go, I was like, oh, I'm hearing this in context now and it's fucking me up. Because it really is stunning. Like, what a fantastic assembly of incredible sounds. Like, I feel like it's an album you listen to and you're like, by all means, none of this sounds like it should work, and yet it does. Favorite track on the album is probably Idiotech, because it comes out of nowhere. I was like, oh, pretty much I was at the gym, I'm pretty sure I dropped my weights at the time. I was like, oh, and probably had to sit down because that is wild. Motion picture soundtrack. Actually, weirdly enough, Radiohead I am most familiar with through the covers of it in the show Westworld. Worth watching the show for that alone. Actually hearing the context of the songs in their album form. Obviously stuff like motion picture soundtrack. Like, just how do you write stuff that good? It's one of those bands instantly, like, where I just immerse myself in them, like learning as much as I can about the band, watching as much live stuff as I can to see how they operate, how they work, what the dynamics are like. I'm only up to Amnesiac, which is the latest album of theirs that I've listened to, which means I've still got a lot of fun stuff to go. From what I've heard, it just continues to get better and better. Amnesiac I really like. It was probably the first time the albums didn't go up for me. It kind of went Kid A and then it's kind of leveled off. But I do understand at the same time that I feel like Amnesiac is an extension of Kid A, so it's taking the kind of sounds there, which is a lot more kind of electronically driven, and now they've gone to kind of taking that same experimental approach. I do believe a lot of the songs were written at the same time, or kind of at least the demos were, and taking that electronic approach and going, okay, let's take like an orchestral approach with it. So a lot of the stuff on Amnesiac is really stunning, particularly one of the songs towards the end, the name is not coming to mind, which goes into like outright jazz, and I was like, that is cool as hell. Moral of the story, I think Radiohead is amazing. Really, really amazing. It's one of those bands that kind of makes me really want to go and try to understand music more, understand it further. Because I really don't have any musical understanding. I don't know if it was a thing they have around the world. I know in Australia they have like recorder, you know, a recorder that's like that weird flute thing. I couldn't even play anything. Like whatever the lowest standard thing is that a person is able to do, I couldn't even do that. I am that musically inept. But the thing is, I really, really love music. So just like film, it was one of those things where it's like, if I love it, I need to learn to talk about it. I need to learn to understand it. The best way to do it is almost just to put myself out there and just probably have you guys grill me saying, oh, he doesn't understand a fucking thing, and then just like school me on it. But that's probably the fastest way to learn, is to have people rip into you about it. So that's all right. I'm just kind of putting myself out here with music with this show. If you dig it, I will be doing more. It will be more condensed because obviously I'm covering 2 months worth of music, and the better I get at being able to talk about music, the more accurate I'll be able to become with targeting what I need to say, kind of dive into genre, dive into delivery, dive into the execution, dive into kind of like a quick semi-review. But I don't know, if you kind of enjoyed this video, I enjoyed doing it. And I think I can expand this format and keep getting better with it. I've obviously got this wall behind me with a whole bunch of music that I've already listened to, that I already really dig. I might even try, that's the main thing actually, is like, if I can get better at talking about music, hopefully I can start to do video essays on music soon, or at least on, I guess, the character of music, or being able to talk about the artists, because it's something I want to do. Is be able to kind of do analysis content on all forms of media. Obviously, it's mainly films and TV right now, but I can start to roll into doing music. I can start to go into games, into visual art, into stuff like that, which I think would be really, really cool. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for continuing to kind of support the channel as it goes through all these changes, and as we're trying out cool new stuff like this. You can follow Breaking Banter on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter. You can also follow me. I have a personal Instagram account that you can see if I remember to put links here. I will see you guys in the next video very soon.